Thank you all for supporting the Children's Eternal Rainforest. And we are going to get going. Let's do the screen share. Okay, perfect. So this workshop is on regenerative futures, building communities, centers, and the new paradigm. I've done workshops on alternative living, helping people who want to leave countries like the US and others, leave cities. Don't necessarily think we have to totally abandon our countries. Some people just want to get out to nature, get out of metropolitan cities. And so this will be a workshop that covers that, but with a specific focus on building communities and centers. A lot of people have asked me about that, not just moving and going to live in another country, but how to start a community, how to start a retreat center, how to join one, how to form a small pod with your friends. And so we're going to review some of that now. So over the last few months, I've been helping a lot of visionaries and leaders looking to build these types of projects, find land, including existing early stage communities and retreat centers that they can partner with. So they don't necessarily have to start from scratch. And I've also helped them find really good development teams like CJI, one that I work with very closely, and others, and good consultants to get these projects off the ground, because it's not easy to do this alone. And building a team is something I've done in the past and love to do. The lone wolf in this case has a hard time, because these are enormous scale projects, even small communities, the invisible structures, the physical ones. Issues come up like innovative housing and hospitality rooms. We've seen kind of a merger between real estate and hospitality, where retreat centers are getting long-term guests, people who can stay from a month to 2 months to even longer, who end up almost living there because of the situation in the world today. And also communities. People are finding that people just want to visit and get a taste of a community and see how it is to live in community first. And many in Costa Rica are starting to spring up, and in other countries, Mexico, Portugal, even in the US. Our guest speaker today, Stephen Brooks, has built a retreat center here called Punta Mona, a community called Ecovillages, and a new one called Alegria. So he's going to tell us a bit about that. And anyone who's interested in that community or center, you can email me or message me, and I'll put you directly in touch with him. He's been a dear friend, mentor, advisor, best bud. So we'll also talk about things like looking over decks and proposals to bring into align capital into projects. Raising money is a reality, even if it's among friends or it's from the outside. It really needs to be aligned, and people have asked me, I've looked over dozens, if not hundreds of proposals in the past and made them in both spaces, in the retreat space and in the community space, and in mixed use projects that have both, which is very common now. So this really excites me. And I've been a connector. I think that's my zone of genius. I've done real estate and hospitality, and I have competence in it and excellence in some categories. But what I really love to do is connect. Connect people to building solutions, to land, to other people, to teams, to capital. So if you need any connection, reach out. And I'll be sharing some of the things I've learned along the way, but mostly the practical wisdom versus lofty ideals and ideas. We got to do this now, so that's the important part, the practical. And a bit about the Regenerative Future kind of workshop that we'll be doing in terms of the topics. We'll talk about finding land, which countries and regions, developing your deck, vision, mission, your financials, building a team, sustainable building solutions, permitting and logistics, all the legal considerations, capital and investment, regenerative living and land stewardship, how to do the sustainability thing right. And also innovative components like wellness centers, schools are popping up in a lot of these communities, art spaces, and a lot more. And then at the end, I'll get real with y'all and talk a little bit about the ups and downs of how this journey was for me. And at about somewhere around the hour mark, Stephen Brooks will come on, and we'll hear from him kind of how his experience has been. So a bit about my background. So I love projects that push the boundaries of social impact and alternative living, be it hotel projects or retreat centers or building communities. And I started in New York City in throwing parties at nightclubs, which was a very different reality. And moved to Costa Rica about 15 years ago to build a retreat center, birth a community that took many more years, that's just getting off the ground now, and mostly begin my new life. And if you're listening to this, whether you're an individual looking to do this for yourself or a group, or wanting to start a bigger project, most of this will be applicable to both. So I've spent about 15 years in real estate development and hospitality. I worked at a hotel company that had me traveling from Costa Rica, Mexico, all over Europe, the US, looking for land, looking for sustainable land projects. And getting to work with hotel brands and developers was really exciting to help them find the right properties, find really grounded models to turn their dreams into realities. I've seen a lot of dreams, including my own dream that stayed in dreamland for a while, and how to ground those and how to ignite them, really how to get that first spark, is a huge passion of mine, and kind of why we got into a little bit of the tiny homes and things I'll explain later, because if you can get on your land and get it going, it's nothing like that. So with Vida, our retreat center and community in Costa Rica, we wanted to create an environment for transformation and personal growth, and also prototype all these abundant ways of living and being in community. We've started the retreat center some 7 years ago, and the project, you'll see photos of master planning and other things. And about four or 5 years ago, the retreat center itself launched. Also as a prototype, we had glamping tents with the impact investor Pablo Jenkins that supported us. And we built a pool and a kitchen literally right before our first 100-person event. And at the time, it was kind of funny, and funny to my father too, who was my partner and supporter in this dream. We were trying to raise money, build a project, do all of the stuff that people do. He had bought the land with his savings, and we had to do the rest, and that was really hard. We didn't have a penny to do it. And because of experiences I had at Burning Man and in my event life and festival life, we learned how to create an experience very rapidly. So we popped up these tents, the pool, the kitchen, and literally started hosting people, hosting groups. And it's not how a normal real estate development or hotel starts. Usually involves a lot of money and building structures, but this was different. This gave us the energy to bring people there, and also to change things as we went along. We had really big visions in luxury building. Even though it was sustainable, it was still a very different beast than what it is now. And being able to prototype even where certain areas would go, seeing how tents were in an area that we might want to put houses and realizing it was too hot. Seeing areas where micro housing and tiny homes, modular homes, could be more useful than big mansions. My partner and I just moved from an apartment in the capital into a tiny house on the beach, and we realized how little space we needed. We have 40 square meters, just over 400 square feet. And yes, we have a lawn and a swimming pool and a shared yoga deck and kitchen and a few other spaces. But it's really been amazing to see how little we need and how much we could enjoy the land from this perspective. And then people can start to build bigger homes if they need, communities. And so the last part of this background, and we'll get into it, is the recent time. So I launched a company called Live the Possibility to help people bridge to this way of life, both finding land, building solutions with tiny houses, and development consulting with CJI, a company that builds communities and retreat centers for many years all over the world. We partnered to essentially help people build in these thriving, abundant areas and create their dreams. one step at a time, community centers, land projects, and then we connect all of these. We're working now on the website that'll be the rental network for these units, because most of my friends want to live in one place, but go to the beach, go to the mountains. We do that all the time, my partner and I. So I don't need a 5-bedroom house necessarily, but I wouldn't mind 5 bedrooms all over Costa Rica or all over the world. So as we have people building these tiny houses and building these projects, we're placing rental units in each one to give people a taste of these areas, neighborhoods, communities, and also be able to exchange, be able to, without getting very lofty, just simple rental of these units for people, and having a similar concept to Airbnb, but just focused on regenerative living and regenerative hospitality. So we just started working on that website and platform for rental, which is awesome. And we're also helping people form pods with friends, which is somewhat happening naturally, but people who want to just get a few friends together and get a plot of land and be able to live there, or also have an income producing rental unit. We're just seeing what the demand is from people all over, but it's pouring in, so we're trying to match that demand appropriately. So let's jump into it. So the basics is starting to find which country or which region is right for you. I have people looking in the US, upstate New York, near California, Joshua Tree and Sonoma, places like Utah, Montana, places that are safe, safe from natural disasters and other things. You know, half of California is on fire right now, and I really love California. Always wanted a retreat center there, but it makes me think where. Also water, health now with all of the things going on, places that are less populated. And having traveled the US extensively, Arizona, Utah, Montana, Wyoming, I see states that have incredible laws, have incredible foundation to build community easier. And in a lot of these places, building permits and other things are tight. So we created modular tiny houses, and I also love supporting other people's companies that do that, because a lot of these units, like container homes and others, can be popped up right away and can also be super luxury or super basic. But for those reasons, not just aesthetics and all the pretty things on Pinterest, I looked at kind of collecting the solutions that will allow people to ignite these centers. Also noticing how much it costs to do this. Some of those solutions make it a lot easier. So the pros and cons I look at when I would study countries for hotel groups and other things range from taxes, education, health and wellness. I personally landed, when you see my top picks, in Costa Rica, because there's no standing army. It's like the Switzerland of the Americas. It's safe, has very low rates of crime and other things. Education is super high here, one of the highest literacy rates in the Americas. And I love the people. It's also somewhat nuanced. Like, you go to these places and you see where you feel home. And 15 years ago, I came here and felt home. My father left Russia back in the day because he felt things were changing really rapidly there and didn't feel safe for us to raise a family there and for him to have a family there. And he packed up everything and and left. He left money on the table. He left a lot of things, but he took a huge risk and came to the United States. And I felt that as well, a little bit of an intuition that it was time for me to go right after college, and went to Costa Rica. And it wasn't easy. It's not like went with a ton of money. I was actually, a year after getting there, had really difficult financial circumstances. And as much as I was trying to pitch this beautiful dream in life, it was hard. It was really hard. There were nights where I would cry because we might lose a property because of bank loans and different things. I didn't know how all that worked, financing and debt and investors got upset when we didn't give them returns. And all of that was stuff I had to deal with. And some of it went really bad and then went really well. But going through that is a reality. It doesn't always just go peachy from the beginning. And to some people it does, but don't be discouraged. I mean, it was years before the things that I wanted took root, and planting those seeds early was critical because now I get to really enjoy this way of life and help others. Other countries that are top picks, by the way, because Costa Rica is not the only beautiful country. Mexico, there are parts of Mexico, Baja, where I have friends doing beautiful projects, La Paz, Valle del Bravo, and other places in the countryside. I know a lot of my friends are in Tulum right now, which is quite developed, but there's so many cool sustainable projects just outside of there as well. And we have a huge group of friends going to Portugal to start communities now in Portugal and retreat centers. And I traveled a lot in Portugal when I worked with my hotel group. Saw such beautiful land, such beautiful people. It was a neutral country during World War II, so a lot of royalty, a lot of people went there. And Portugal definitely has incredible legal systems. You can get, I think for a 250K or 300K investment, you can get an EU passport, which is amazing. So a lot of our friends are looking at that. In Costa Rica, it's about 60K for residency and about 200K for an investor's express residency. So if you're investing in land or in a project, in many of these countries, you can actually get residency from doing so. And I know a lot of us are thinking about different things like elections and what's happening in the world. So if you're considering that, definitely look into what the residency laws are in this country that you're looking at. And I encourage you to travel around, give a taste to different countries, see what it's like. I traveled all over before we chose Costa Rica. Thankfully, my mom and dad gave me a lot of fun travel when we were younger, my sister and I. But after that, too, I went on my journey post-Burning Man all over the world, traveling like a maniac, connecting to people, seeing what's going on. So the next point, take your time, investigate the countries, the areas, due diligence, look at projects. I see people moving to a country and buying land so quickly. They're like, I just got to download, I feel it. And if you really did, trust it, don't worry. But I really encourage people to try different regions of the same country. Even now, 15 years later, I'm finding myself in Santa Teresa, Costa Rica. There's beautiful community. Last week, we were in Nosara, another thriving zone. We have friends doing awesome projects there. Others in Uvita in the south of Costa Rica. I've spent time also in the mountains of Tinamaste and above, seeing land in these areas because, yeah, sometimes living on the beach can get a little beachy. So I personally, at some point when I'm raising a family and looking at a different part of my life, I might want to be more in the mountains, and I feel that. But always having a place to go to the beach, a beach home, something to share with friends, that would be an abundant luxury to enjoy, but one that I'd like to manifest. So really feel how you want to live, even if it's decentralized. I have friends who have beach rental units that actually make them income that they can enjoy literally for free because it's a place where they rent it out when they're not there. So you can design it in a way where it's not just for the rich and famous. And we have tiny houses that we're building for 15K and some that are being financed for people. So for $400 or $500 a month, you could have a tiny house and a piece of land. So that's the kind of stuff that I think makes it accessible to a lot of people. And yeah, and when you're doing this, when you start this process, build a solid team, legal, finance, residency, man or woman on the ground. Have someone you know in one of these countries that can help you. Fortunately or unfortunately, I've been that in Costa Rica for many people. So, you know, giving people the lowdown, my opinion. I also connect people to my lawyer, Manfred, who's amazing, to residency experts, to my accountant, Susan. She's a gem of a person. These people open up bank accounts. I give them power of attorney, especially when you trust them, so I don't have to wait in long bank lines. That was a huge lesson for me. Many countries abroad are super bureaucratic, and not having to deal with that bureaucracy could make your life a lot more comfortable. So when you find lawyers you trust, you can give them limited powers of attorney that they can file documents for you. I had, when I started working at the hotel company, I was in New York for a little bit last year, and I literally had my lawyer open me a bank account in a new company for $600 while I was abroad and sign the documents. He didn't have full power, but enough that I needed for him to do that, and it saved me a lot of time. Also, if you're making the move to a new country, it was really hard for me. We took a lot of luggages and suitcases. You could do the Marie Kondo way and give all your stuff away and live very light. That's cool too. And keep the things you love. I just did this whole thing where I moved out of my apartment and donated so many things to people who are in need right now, and it felt great. I donated them with love, and everything I have is more than enough, clothes, whatever. But also having a landing pad. I had an apartment in the capital of Costa Rica, which was really nice. It was still connected, internet, supermarkets, if you're with a family, schools and different things, so you don't immediately have to go move into a jungle or somewhere super far away. Some people want that, and I totally encourage it, but having a landing pad, even a place where you can get a storage unit, storage units are both a gift and later become a pain in the butt because stuff just sits there. But in the beginning, that really helps. And if you're moving with a family and you have the budget, I had a moving company do what a lot of big companies like IBM and others do, which is a full relocation. They will literally pack up your things, label everything on the boxes, and unpack in your new apartment. And I didn't think it was possible, but it was not that much more expensive. Shipping a container to a country like Costa Rica could be $3,000 to $4,000, and the moving company charged me $6 to do all of the U.S. packing and unpacking. I don't know if I would need that now, but for those, especially with families, makes the world of difference. And again, some of these things might sound like luxuries, but if it helps you live more aligned and live more comfortably and pursue your dreams, don't feel guilty at all. It's these things exist for a reason, and you're helping other people do the work that they love. Doing business abroad is a huge learning curve too, especially if you're developing projects and retreat centers. There are a lot of things in Costa Rica. Sometimes you find out that materials will arrive tomorrow, and tomorrow could mean next week. Permits, when they say, yeah, it'll be ready in a month, give it 3, give it 6. In many countries, unless you ask a question, they won't give you an answer. So I once asked my lawyer, he was like, why are you an hour late for this meeting? And I was like, man, I hit this huge traffic jam. And he was like, didn't you know that there was a strike in the capital? And I was like, no, like, why didn't you tell me? And so that's the kind of stuff that, you know, I learned slowly, the nuances that if you ask in Costa Rica, they will tell you. In many cases, they won't. So learn the country, and especially from a local, and how doing business there is. It could be really frustrating, and it was for a year or two for me. And if you're moving as a family or creating a project as a family, I've seen one of the family members, husband or wife, begin first and scout, set up the landing pad, maybe a schooling for the kids. Costa Rica has Waldorf schools and Montessori schools, but it's really nice to have someone go first and scout for the family. So highly, highly recommend different tips for families to nail these things, including language schools, including things like, what are you going to do if not both husband and wife, let's say, or husband and husband are not involved in the project together? What will the other one do? Whether it's write a book, whether it's art and a hobby. It's happened to me where I've had girlfriends and partners that got very bored, or because they didn't learn the language, felt isolated, or because they didn't have a driver's license or didn't feel comfortable driving, they didn't feel independent. And literally those are the things that made developing communities and retreat centers really tough, because you want your unit to feel good. So those are some of the basics. Now we'll go into buying land a bit. So searching and finding real estate that's priced right is really critical. A lot of times land is overpriced. Get comparables. Have someone do good diligence and find what the right price per square foot or per square meter is. Make sure the land is priced accordingly. Sometimes expensive land, but that has water and electricity, is not expensive, because you'll see how much it will cost for you to bring water and electric to your property, and it could be astonishing. Or doing off-grid solutions can be both good or can be very expensive. So really do a good real estate search. Take your time. I've mentioned having the local that helps you scout. In Costa Rica, anyone could be a realtor. So in that regard, it's, you know, it's a little bit easier because I always find people who can help me, or a local friend who says, wow, you got to see this property. It's never been owned by anyone except the original owner. When you have a chance to buy a property from the original owner, it's a dream. Like the father passed it to the son and now it's for sale. Sometimes it's a headache. It's like five brothers who own a property and they're fighting over selling it. Whenever something smells complicated, it usually is and will be. So definitely think about these kind of things. And I said it before, but take your time. Get to know a country, the areas, find your tribe, find a place where you'll feel comfortable with people you know. So that's really important. Um, Again, we talked about due diligence. Hire a lawyer, have them do a title search on the property. Make sure it's free and clear. A lot of properties are untitled or have water springs where by the time you see, even for sustainable development, that you can only develop a certain part of the property, becomes a big waste of time, essentially, where you get excited about something and then it can't really fit for what you need. And things like lawyers, engineering companies, development companies who will do full site visits and due diligence, it is so critical. I can't stress that enough. And getting your financing in order and exploring new models. Understand how much money you have or your group of friends have to spend, not just on land, but for building. A lot of people will spend too much on land and won't have enough to build their dreams, especially when they see that their home or hotels or community cost way more to build, the roads and electric and all of that, than they thought. So really get your finances in order. There's also other models that exist. You can get financing. In Costa Rica and other countries, you can get financing for buying land from the bank, from other people, even as a foreigner, private financing. It can also catch up to you if you can't make the payments and the mortgages and all of those kind of things can be a nightmare. So look at those models, see if they actually make sense. The hotel company I worked with did long-term land leases. They literally built 100 hotels, not buying a single property. They leased properties for 20 years with extensions. So if you're building a retreat center, yeah, you can go buy a $1 to $4 million property. You could also lease it. People are sitting on a ton of land right now that they don't know what to do with. There's also projects now that are in default and projects that are frozen that have a lot of heart, that are good projects. And so you can come in as a partner and take over, or as a buyer and take over an existing project. Not starting from scratch is a dream. Sometimes it's nice, you have a vision and you want to build it from the ground up. In many cases, I think that's epic. In some cases, having the bones of an existing center or an existing even main clubhouse for a community, or in our case was a ranch, it makes it so much easier to get going and for you to have a place to stay while you're starting a project. So I think that's critical, to explore all the different financial models that exist and property types. Having an accountant also from the very beginning that can help you with corporations and local bank accounts. Residency we spoke about, but many times just buying the land, you can get residency. In some cases, citizenship. If you marry someone who has citizenship in a country, you often get it too. But otherwise, your investment can qualify in many cases for residency or citizenship. And in the case of doing a big project, a retreat center, a community, or just building a neighborhood, finding land becomes a totally different type of search. I'll give you one example. I love finding land for people that's bordering large national parks or preserves. One, because that regenerative project can add to the buffer and protect that national park. Marcus, who's on the call with Finca Exotica, it literally borders an incredible park in Osa in the south of Costa Rica. So even though his property is one size, hundreds and hundreds of acres of extra land that's protected. And he did an incredible job protecting the majority of his land so that it would stay like that, almost at the same level as a national park, but that a private person can do. And most people I talk to are looking at that now, large-scale land preservations, and also building their projects against these kind of places, especially because all these projects are regenerative and sustainable. Imagine 1,000 acres of forest in your backyard. It's incredible. You see monkeys and toucans, and you get to make sure that no poachers, no big fancy hotel will come up there. So that's amazing. And also, the last point on this slide is if you are building a retreat center, you are building a community, get a good development consultant. People have been in this business for years and they know how to do it, and they can help you with the parts that you don't know. So that's it on buying land. Now we'll go into a little bit of building efficiency. When I mentioned due diligence, not just on land, but also understand what the water sources are, electricity. Understanding topography with a good engineer is critical. Where you can build, you don't want to be cutting down parts of mountains to build, and working with the land. Good architects and engineers, they know how to work with topography, where the sun is in different parts of the day, different parts of the year. What kind of forest are you around? Primary, secondary. Don't want to be cutting big trees down. And even small trees. There are many invasive species that you can cut down and replant food and other things. So it's not just like this taboo of like, you can't cut a single tree. Some trees you actually do need to take down, especially smaller ones that might be in an area where you want to do permaculture and other things. And it's actually an invasive species of tree that was brought from another country. So there's really good reasons to do very strong diligence before you touch any piece of property with your vision. Feel into the land. What does it want for itself? I literally sit on my land under this one tree and listen to the messages it tells me. It might sound a little hippie or spiritual, but you'd be surprised. Spending a little time on your land, even in a tent, you'll see what it tells you. You'll also see different areas. You'll feel it out. So I really, really encourage all of this kind of things. And building quality at a good price without being taken advantage of was the next point here. Finding local building resources, giving local people work is critical, but find the quality that you like. Work with architects that you really admire. Make sure, talk to local friends, compare prices. Don't get taken advantage of in price or time. You'll see things that look too good to be true. They are. I was looking for a good building solution with tiny houses and partnered with my buddy Jack from a company I used to work at. And I found that their people, planet, profit, their prices were really good, but they cared about the people they worked with, the people who lived in those structures and the planet, and then came the profit. So most of the time people are like, wow, these prices are coming in pretty crazy. Well, it's because Jack and his team, they really care. For those looking to develop also in Costa Rica, Mexico, all these countries, I can connect you to that development team because they've built all over for us and they're amazing. And so, working with people who are well recommended, I know they've built a lot of retreat centers, communities. I trust them. I've worked with them. But find people you respect that are recommended by others, architects, construction companies. Really look into this and have them and have your development consultants, whether a house or a community, look into what permitting will entail for the size you want to build. In Costa Rica, for units, usually it's by municipality that are less than 20 meters squared. You essentially don't need a full construction permit. You can go for an express permit. That's why we started with these tiny homes you'll see in the fast builds. It was for a reason. One, to live smaller and with smaller footprint, but also to live in a way where we can get on our land quicker. I've seen developers spend 2-3 years pitching their project and going to fancy presentations and doing these big presentations with financials, and their land just sits there. And so if you can get on your land, you, the person who has the dream, just being there, it'll ignite your dream faster than you can ever imagine. Using local materials, labor, sustainable practices, this is a must. Don't be importing homes from somewhere in China into Costa Rica. You can't explain to me any single way where that's sustainable. Build local, even prefab and modular designs in US, Mexico, Costa Rica. you can build things locally with local materials and local labor. Doesn't mean an architect can't be some top architect from the States or from another country, but try, even if you have some of your team that's from abroad, that's okay. Have them train some local labor and some new techniques of building. Work with the locals and their wisdom. They will save you time and money. You're also helping the community. Don't just be kind of one of these people who comes in and does things in the way that they see fit without respecting what's local. Even in Costa Rica, we choose local materials based on if we're building in Osa or Santa Teresa or up in the mountains. We see what materials exist. There's stone and rock on the very property that you might be building on. People actually plant, we have friends who plant wood and bamboo for harvesting, that they use that very bamboo to build the homes and the hotel rooms and etc. So there's so many cool ways to do this. And when you buy your land, think about that. Start planting your building materials, not just your food. You'll be very happy. I couldn't believe in when we bought land, I was like, oh, trees take 10 to 15 years to grow. It's been 15 years since I bought land. I already would have had huge trees to harvest that are planted in ways where you could do harvesting of not each tree, but they're intermixed and you can leave some. You don't want a monocrop. You don't want to plant huge palm fields, but there are sustainable ways to plant and harvest and also grow food and different things like coffee underneath. So really look into these kind of things and really consider, especially today, water sovereignty, the soil for your food, energy resources. I can't tell you how nice it is to have a property with our own water. Um, we have food that grows in our ground that we can pick, not just arugula and fine little things, but things like sweet potatoes and things that literally are abundant food that comes out of the ground. Chica skill and chaya, tree spinach, these things are year-round greens that you can eat, and they're being planted in countries like Africa and etc. for food crises, but you can plant all these things now. You can have fruit trees, like right behind me, there's a noni tree, there's a moringa tree, there's an acerola cherry, that's a papaya. So you have literally fruit trees that can be giving such yummy fruit, and Stephen will tell us more about that when he comes on. But also look at the soil of the land you're buying. In some areas, it's really bad. In some areas, it's so dark and rich, you even have to cut it down. Cut it meaning mix it with lesser grade soil so it's not over rich. So these things are really important. And also energy sources. Costa Rica is 98% renewables from water, from hydro, and from wind. Our project can actually be on grid, for example, and be more sustainable than being off grid. Now, I want to have some solar panels and a little bit of wind on our land because I want it to be autonomous in case I can't always depend on national energy grids. But really look into that. Having municipal water and electric could go such a long way, especially in Costa Rica, and also understand the permitting related to that. We have to refile permits on our project to show what water use we need now as opposed to many years ago, because the community took longer to start than the retreat center. We're just starting our community now. So we had to refile certain permits. We chose tiny houses because they're quick for permitting. So all these things are considerations. And again, do good topography, do good engineering work for your home or for your project, and work with somebody who's good. And the last point is kind of interesting. Internet. I know many people want to go and disconnect. That's awesome. But most of my friends now who are in Costa Rica are working abroad or talking to their family. So I'm now on probably one of the most remote peninsulas, Santa Teresa and Malpais, the Nicoya Peninsula, one of the blue zones of Costa Rica. And I have fiber optic internet here. It's pretty crazy. The owner of this property brought it underground, and there's underground electric and internet in a very small retreat center, but it's a property where he's building also. He has lots and he's building a neighborhood, a small sustainable community. Not everything has to be these large communities. I think he has 10 or 12 plots, but he's brought in good internet. So it's made my work a lot easier, this workshop possible. And it really is nice. I like to watch Netflix at night. We don't watch TV, but we do enjoy a good show on Netflix. So it's really nice when you can do that in a good speed. And that's one of the most annoying things for people from abroad who are moving to Costa Rica is issues with internet. These are early stage development photos of my father when we were building our project, the roads. You could see him looking at different engineering plans. In Russia, he was a mathematician, physicist, so he's used to big schematics. He built machines in Russia for the university. So he's looking right now at road engineering. I've never seen someone go more in depth. In the middle, he's working with our architect. On the right, you could see him drawing the master plans and different base designs for the units, and literally standing right next to the backhoe as it dug something. People just get backhoes and not be there. First time I had a backhoe on our property for food planting, I saw my buddy Bradley Scott Farmer that Stephen introduced me to. He was with that backhoe for every minute because you're paying by the minute. He didn't want it to touch a wrong tree, a wrong root. And if you're going to develop a house or a project, be there, be involved, or have someone you trust there. And so this just shows a photo of some of our early process testing, working with the engineering company. You see my journal in one of the photos because I was taking voracious notes. The first roads in our community. So yeah, breathe life into your project. Be in these meetings. Let's see what we got next. Yeah, this is a board we made of some tiny houses that were both small and luxurious and efficient. All of you will get a copy of this video and presentation, and I can send you more. On our website is we created a Pinterest called Live the Possibility, and it's linked on both Zaydel.com and livethepossibility.co. I put all my favorite cabins and tiny houses into a Pinterest board because I want to share it with other people. These are great inspirations to build homes, also retreat centers and communities. And so our company builds a preset set of designs. We have an A-frame and a container home, but we also build custom tiny houses. So I wanted to give people a sense of what that's like. And we're starting now the first home in Costa Rica. We have about, I think, 60 or so that are going to get going. And then we'll do them in Mexico and the US. But if you have your architect and your build team, could use a lot of these homes as inspiration. I really believe in copyleft instead of copyright, and open source and sharing these ideas. So reach out after the workshop if you have questions. These are some of the A-frames that we're building now. You could have a little bit of a sense of it. And they're very basic, very simple, but we could also finish them super luxury for those who need, with bamboo inside, with teak, with bareke mud walls. They also can have solar and wind power. So just to give you an idea of a little bit of what I do for my projects, we're doing these at Vida and now helping about 10 communities start up and centers in Costa Rica with these units as rapidly deployable homes and also rooms for the retreat center. So it's really cool and a really good solution I wish I had 15 years ago when we started all of this. So this is an interesting point, raising aligned capital. I wanted to kind of dive into this now because if you are creating a big project and you need to raise money, people always ask me about this. And I used to have to look at a lot of numbers and decks. I don't really like creating financial spreadsheets. I always do a basic version of them and I have the pros look at them, people who know how to do this. But create a beautiful deck or presentation. It doesn't need to be over the top. I've literally had super high-end investors say, looking at another person's project, say, look, I don't need to see 10 pages of pretty pictures from Bali and Mexico. Everyone knows what a pretty mood board looks like. They want to see what you're going to build. Yeah, put some sexy photos in there. Show examples of things that are the pool or the gardens or the rooms or the center, but don't go over the top. People will get really tired fast. And focus on your mission and vision and the practical parts of it. I see a lot of lofty things and I don't really feel the mission of the visionary or their vision is very clear. I refine my mission and vision statements over and over and over and over. So I think it's really important for people to do that, to be really clear on why they're doing this. What's your mission? What's your overall vision? Where is it going to be in 5 or 10 years? What are the practical components? Everyone's seen the Pinterest vision board, so take it easy. And create a presentation that's balanced. The who, you, the team, the what are you building? Where are you building it? When? What's the timeline? And how do you plan to pull this off? Um, these kind of presentations excite me and also excite investors or partners. And create a simple set of financials. I see people with these like 5-page, 5-year projections that are, I mean, I'm clicking through them and I'm getting nauseous. So first create a 1-pager, create a brief financial overview that you can show with your deck. Anyone who's interested, then you can send him deeper financials. You can expand on that. I've even had an investor help me create the financials because he realized that wasn't my zone of genius. And he's like, look, I get what you're doing. The economics make sense. I get how much these houses are, etc. Let's work on a financial projection that he could invest in and that his colleagues could. And be flexible. Your vision should become their vision. If you're looking for people to move into your community, to invest in your project, in your retreat center, it can't just be you. Let it become their vision. Paint their vision in your words. It is so important when I hear people saying, wow, I've had this dream all along. Yes, we both have. And merging that will really allow people to feel engaged with what you're creating from their heart, to really feel like this is what I've dreamed of, versus when you hear people only talking about their vision. I have a dream of this and that, and we're going to build this. I see developers get lost all the time in this vision dreamland. Really make sure that the people you're speaking to, you're writing in their language, that you really understand what they want. Otherwise, it might just be for you. And don't focus only on money. Focus on purpose, people, planet, profit, as we said. I just spoke to one of the larger regenerative investors that I've spoken to in years. And when he sees people that are just money driven, ROI, gets lost. Another investor said to me, I hate the word investor. It makes me think that I need a return on my investment, where I already have enough money. I want to really return to nature. I want to make money or a stable project, but it's not my focus. And I know that's hard for people to hear, but it's true. And when you find an aligned investor, it's the happiest day of your life. When they're not aligned, whether it's for your home, for your community, it'll be a pain in the butt sooner than later. And I know it's hard to say no to money, but it's the best no you'll ever say. And I've seen that recently in my own case where I've said no, and something better does come along. If you're not so hungry for money, so hungry for financing your project, make sure that it's the right partner. I've seen it turn into a real disaster in many cases. And also, it doesn't have to be. I've seen projects that have 3 or 4 partners where one gets bought out, one leaves. That's okay. It's usually better if you have one single financial source, yours or a specific investment group. But if you're bringing a couple people together, understand that's where things could either be beautiful or muddy if they're not aligned. And there's a lot of work you can do to understand that, and a lot of diligence on these people. Spend time with them, have dinner with them. These are real people. When they take off their suit and tie, or some of them don't even wear suit and ties. I was on a call with an investor and I was shirtless. Be real, see who they are. Everyone goes home at night and is a human, and so don't treat people who are investors differently. Don't put them on pedestals. Don't kiss their toes and their feet. Be real with them and tell them what you're doing. And if it fits, cool. If not, you'll find the right person. And when your heart and mind is aligned, people will feel your energy. I know we're sticking to most of the real estate and hospitality language, but a little bit of the spiritual part in here. When your heart and mind is aligned to your project and you're doing the right thing, people feel it. When I started this project that I'm doing now, I had people like investors, serious people like, wow, we feel your energy. It's infectious. Literally, people will feel you. And if they don't, you should see also maybe something's not aligned in your vision, the property, the team. But when you nail it and when you find the place and the team to do it and everything, it's the model that you want, people will feel that. And when I said earlier, be flexible, I really mean it. Visions can change a ton of times. I wish, 15 years ago, I was more flexible with our original vision in our community aspect, because it ended up starting to work the retreat center in a much more humble way with glamping tents. And that ignited a bigger project, and a hotel company came in and really liked it because we proved heads and beds before we could raise big money. And same for homes and communities. Maybe you start with something small, even for yourself, and then grow bigger, but be flexible. If your vision is not flexible, an earthquake, a rigid house will crack, or building, but bamboo and wood and houses on stilts sway. Flexibility is key. And it's really hard to let go. It's really hard to change things that you think are right. But the more comfortable you are with that change, the better it'll be. Change is the only constant in the world. All of a sudden, things happen now in retreat centers and big hotels are screwed. People aren't traveling as much. But I know retreat centers in Costa Rica that are full right now. Why? They were flexible. They're flexible to people living there. And so they had kitchenettes and other things that allowed for medium-term stays. If you're building a retreat center today, make sure you have kitchenettes, make sure you have some storage space. People might stay for a few months, and it's the difference between your model failing or succeeding. And if you're raising capital, show that you know. Examples, case studies go a long way. I studied communities, Tamara, Findhorn, Auroville, studied every form of sustainable community I could. Also retreat centers like Esalen and others, and Hippocrates and Omega Institute that a mentor and dear friend, Stefan Rekschafen, who has Blue Spirit here now. People like David Leventhal on the call, Playa Viva. I look at all these examples of people who have nailed it, and it helps us who are starting on this process really know where to go and how to do it. And an investor will see that. They'll see that you've done your homework, and they'll see how you want to differentiate too. There are things I don't like about Tamara and Findhorn and Daminher and these legendary communities. I want something, for example, for me, much smaller. I might want to live in a neighborhood, not even in a community. Be cool with what you want too. It's not like to be sustainable, you have to build eco-villages. You can, and I think it's exciting, and Stephen will be on in a few minutes to share with us, but do what you feel is right and study along the way. In terms of regenerative living, on the next slide here, I'm going to go over this a little fast because we've talked about some of this, but build neighborhoods and communities that are resilient. Water, food, electricity, also the social fabric. Don't just build a silo in the middle of a town. I got to know all the people who live in our town of Miramar, the firemen, the policemen, the electricians, become part of the fabric. Sustainability is part ecological, part social, and part economic. So you definitely don't just want to get stuck in the ecological part. Make sure you're part of the social fabric. Stephen told me he didn't want his builder to live, his construction guy to live in a separate place. Why can't they live near or in our community? And so building resilient communities, when things hit the fan, you'll be very thankful that the people who are the farmers and the people who are what looks like the basic people in your village, they'll actually be the ones who help your butt out when things get tough. And when you integrate with the local community, it's brilliant. It's really brilliant. And there's so many good programs that do that, that help people with that fabric of how to integrate. And resilience, good water, springs, good soil, freedom. People ask what I love about Costa Rica. Not just this beautiful sun and lush green, but it's freedom. Energy sources, solar, water, wind, combinations, having food, that's true freedom. And create an example with your own home, with your own way of life. They say, be the change you wish to see in the world. It's not just a saying. Really try to create an example of how you live. I was pitching something that only today I started living this way, a few months ago, moving into a small home, living on the land. I had an apartment in the city that I felt so comfortable retreating to. That's okay, but if you're building a community or retreat center, be an example. Go live there. Go see how it is. Maybe you're uncomfortable and don't even want it. I mentioned also tiny house and efficient builds. Ignite your project with a smaller blueprint. okay? A smaller footprint, I'm sorry, and blueprint. But ignite it, get on the land, keep it local and organic, keep every dollar you spend local. It's so, so, so important. Think about things like schools and education for the next generation, um, and also wellness and healing centers. How will we live, grow, heal? I love the fact that we have a ton of healers and practitioners, from body workers, Reiki healers, masseuse, meditation. It really is a big part of community, and it's part of why we had a retreat center and community, was to integrate wellness into everyday life. Other really innovative things you could do is consider elements like art infused in every day. I'm a former, well, still burner from Burning Man. I love seeing massive sculptures. They're literally little babies who would say, wow, that in a fine art museum might not understand. But when you have art in the everyday, sculptures, landscape art, flowers, not just fruit trees, it could change your community or retreat center. People interact with art, makes them smile, makes them come to life. This is how you can really live when you're inspired. Doesn't have to be expensive art either. I know people who use post-industrial recycled materials. Somebody made a huge watering can in one of our events out of post-industrial factory materials. And people are like, wow, how'd you get that here? What is that? It was huge, massive. So think about that. And also don't forget animals. A lot of issues in communities and places deal with animals. So I live in an apartment building in the past in San Jose, and it was really tough when things got a little tighter and we didn't have a dog park or anywhere to walk like we walked our dog, but we couldn't let our dog free. If our community just had, or that building had a dog park and it was fenced in, then that dog wouldn't be going into a neighbor's property. I know Steven's dad, Norman, when he was asked at Envision at a festival, what's one of the biggest issues in your eco village, that's causing ruckus? Dogs were one of them, and dogs running into people's lawns, cats, feral cats. You didn't get your cat, fixed, and so now it's having 1 million babies, and that's eating all the iguanas and local flora and fauna and different things. So don't forget about animals in public spaces, places where you can walk with your family, yourself, your animals. And oops. Yeah, communities of the future, we've spoken a little bit about this, but understand if you want to live in a community versus a neighborhood. You might just want to live in a beach town. You might want to live in an eco village. And think about what impact is this to have on our future? Who is your community for? Just young digital nomads? What about the elder village? What about families? And you can make your own choices, but really consider this. We've spoken about having the team that will help you, and also explore things like shared living and new business models, places where you could have fixed community and transient community. Co-working spaces, public spaces where people from abroad could come into your community. Oh, I see Steven's just joining. I'm gonna unmute you in a little bit, Steven. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. So, when you're thinking about these communities, get a feel for what you want, stay in some, see if you really want to live in an intentional community or start one, or just want to live in a neighborhood or near one. Because I've seen people moving in and out and making choices later that could have been thought out ahead of time. And things like tiny houses and income producing assets. Again, I once thought I wanted a 5-bedroom house, but I want a small home in a community, and to have a beach unit that could be fun. Like right now, me and my girlfriend are on the beach. We went to Nosara last week. If I had a small cabin there that was income producing for me, it can also be someone's way of tasting what that community is like. Somebody moving to Costa Rica asked me, what's the difference between Uvita, Nosara, Santa Teresa, Chiripo? Go stay there, feel what it's like. And your unit, your home could be a way for someone to get a taste of that while you're gone or you're traveling. I mentioned earlier, good Wi-Fi is key, thanks to fiber optics. It really makes life a lot easier. If you're into the off-grid thing, that's awesome too. I know Marcus from Finca Exotica turns off his Wi-Fi for guests, and that was so good for me because I'm constantly grabbing for this thing. So decide what your status is, but having access to Wi-Fi, also infrastructure, water, electricity, sewage, roads. You know, Stephen told me once back in the day, I don't get why we move all this sewage around. And when I saw how nice their compost toilets are, you know, Mom, I don't know if you would necessarily use one of these, but maybe they're getting nicer, you know? So decide when you build your communities, do you want a huge wastewater treatment plant? It costs so much money. Stevens has a huge biodigester that turns the poop into gas. That's freaking amazing. So there's so many innovative ways that you could build these things where literally the sewage can be turned into gas for cooking. Um, you know, there's also keeping it cool. I talked about the reality of building your tribe, the HOA rules. Make really nice HOA rules, and you can look at other people's too, and think about pets and things like this that can turn into a big bummer lately when the rules are not set the right way. Um, Families and education, consider what's needed for families to thrive. Make your community open to teachers. Education is such a big deal. I see people moving to different parts of Costa Rica just for schools. You know, I know Stephen's first community, Alegria, they had a school that allowed families to see different forms of education that were possible and kids to enjoy being with each other in nature. There are Waldorf schools in Costa Rica. Also consider health and wellness, healers, practitioners. These are awesome people to have part of your community or living around. They can provide services that now might not be retreats and getaways because of the state of the world, but they can be in service to a community. And also think, we spoke a lot about it, but sustainable land planning, permaculture, spaces that are also not to be developed, to be just left for regeneration. So these are some of the things I would consider from the community side. And retreat centers of the future, you know, we spoke a lot about this again, but consider the land carefully, the area, your impact. Visit other projects, see what you like and don't like. Consider if you want a retreat center merged with your community or not. Maybe your community doesn't like the guests. Maybe your community loves the spa features and that there are healers around. All things to consider in kind of the mixed use model. And how you'll interact with your local community is quite critical. Will you be giving work to your local community? And I mentioned it earlier, but if you're building any form of hotel or retreat center now, understand that your business model will have to change in these uncertain times. We went up to a place in Chiripo that had people staying for 2-3 months. Thank goodness the units were built like tiny houses, that they had kitchenettes, they had things where people could stay long and mid-term. And these kind of business models could save the day in this time of the world. Get an MVP off the ground. And by the way, if I'm speaking a little quickly now, it's because I want Stephen to share with us a little. But yeah, we have one or two more slides to go. Thanks, Stephen. I love that you and my mom are both on right next to each other on the screen too. Makes me smile. Yay. Sometimes my mom asks me what I do, so I'm really happy she's here. She's like, it looks you just on vacation. Oh, wow, and Andrew Seeley there right next to it. I got the whole family here. This is amazing. Hey, guys. So getting an MVP off the ground was the next point. If you can get something going, sometimes these big projects takes years to get off the ground. If you have a place that you're purchasing that has some existing bones, that an owner has put a little bit of love into, has a center, has some rooms, it could make a huge difference. You could really get going in a way that you can start to host people. You can bring energy to the property. And if you're building from scratch, which is beautiful, definitely think of ways where you can get, you know, we did it with glamping at first, and I remember I had a billionaire staying in a glamping tent, and they're like, this is for you, but they don't care. They just want to be part of the energy. They want to be there. They want to feel what you're building. So whether it's glamping tents, small, tiny houses, modular houses, get something off the ground. And hiring the right team, the next point, is so critical. An operator, having a general manager, having someone local who can definitely handle housekeeping, kitchen staff, paying your electric and water bills. I had hosts who would host our groups who didn't know how to do anything legal in Costa Rica. So we created a structure where we had a local general manager and a foreign host who usually would come from the States, stay for a season or two. Sylvia, Meg, you saved the day during the Vita days, Marissa. It was amazing because they could face the group. They understand a workshop's happening at 3 o'clock. Then they go back to the housekeeping and say, hey, we need pillows set up. We need this. Dinner's running an hour late. That's okay. You're here to serve the group. Don't get pissed. Just have a way to interface back with your team. And our general manager just made sure of a lot of things having happened. We had oil for cooking. We had water and electric bills paid. We had an issue where our water line was driven over by a car. And so we had no water for a retreat. Thankfully, we had a backup. But having the right team, head of housekeeping, head of kitchen, makes or breaks the day. Marketing team, legal team, land and maintenance. Holy crap, they keep our place beautiful. So that is critical for people building retreat centers. And get all your legal and operating papers in order. Have a good lawyer or team that can help you with that. It's cool also to be under the radar. We were for a while. As soon as we went above the radar, we had a lot of ministries of this and that come in and check on our place. I'm actually, kind of in the middle on this one. I think it's so nice now that we have all the licenses for food and etc. But if you're going under the radar, it's kind of nice too. In Spanish, we say, mejor pedir perdón que pedir permiso. Sometimes you can say sorry instead of asking for permission, but if you're going to choose, err on the side of legal always. And when building a center, really think about your content. We had a very humble small center, not in a popular part of Costa Rica, in Miramar, Punta Arenas, a beautiful town, but people are like, how do you get people there? It's because we had some of the most amazing healers and practitioners and people in personal development there, transforming people's lives, so they didn't care where it was. So really consider the content, even in a community, having good talks, having a good body worker. Wow, que rico. Amazing to get a nice massage. It's not always a luxury, it's a necessity. So this could make a retreat center or community a lot better quality. I mentioned this in the last slide, but doing strong market research and diligence, and understanding resilience, low operating expense models, things that if we have a pandemic or something, your place isn't sitting paying tons of bills. One of the things I loved about a retreat model versus a hotel was that when we had a retreat, we had tons of staff, housekeepers, kitchen staff. Everyone was so happy for the work. And when we didn't, the place was quiet and shut down, and we had a groundskeeper, people keeping it nice, and we as a place could survive because of that financial model. So really understand, if you want to be operating year-round, and seen places do $1 million in sales, and I'm like, wow, you're crushing it. And they're like, no, we have, 100K in overhead every month. And I'm like, okay. So consider your business model of opening a retreat center. And getting real, we'll share a little bit more with Stephen too, but some of the things that I spoke in the beginning, but freedom has its ups and downs. In America, I always see police. In the United States, here it's a little less. I feel a lot more free with water, food sovereignty. I also deal with foreign bureaucracy. Sometimes a line at the bank is a nightmare, or a legal process, or sending a wire is a freaking nightmare. So here I've been talking about like the beauty of Costa Rica and other countries like Mexico, but a lot of it can be some foreign bureaucracy and red tape, language barriers. If you're moving with a girlfriend, boyfriend, loved one, they don't speak the language, you're going to have a really tough time. They're going to feel isolated. Also, them being able to drive sometimes. I really encourage people to learn the language of where you live. Animals, we spoke about it. The only thing is here, watch about adopting too many pets and different things. Do it if you have the land and the capacity. But I've seen people with like 6 dogs because their wife loves dogs. It could be a dream or a nightmare. So just be smart with animals. We spoke about autonomy, driving, communicating. Adventure. If you're not going to live your dream life, why do this? I spent a few years in the beginning of our project, and I would tell Stephen I couldn't visit Punta Mona. I still do sometimes. But life is an adventure. If you adventure, if you have fun, doesn't have to be far. Go to the beach, to a park. I love Costa Rica because of this. We drive down to Andrew. We've taken so many adventures to hot springs, to the mountains, you know, so really make it fun. Even if you're tight on budget, some of these adventures cost nothing. Have fun. And things to do is the next point is, how do I put this? Things could get really boring for your loved one or your business partner or somebody if they don't have other passions, work, art, things to do. So when you're not working, or when you're working and your girlfriend is just sitting there, you know, really think about things to do. Really think what you can do to both be engaged, or as a family be engaged, the kids, etc. And the last point's a real value. Consider land, water, food, friends, fun, good health, safety. What do you value? Put them on a piece of paper and make sure you live aligned to those values. And to impact. What impact are you having on the planet, on ourselves? Stephen said to me once, hone in on your legacy. And I freaking love that. What legacy do you want to leave on this planet? Hone in on it now. And yeah, quality of life. Map out what you want in this life. And most importantly, do you. Trust your gut. Take your time. Don't always listen to others. Do the things that you really feel good with, you know. Doing you, I think, is one of my biggest pieces of advice. And guest speaker, Stephen Brooks. Hold on. Let me see how I can unmute you. 1 second. I'm going to do that. Here we are. Yeah, unmute. Boom. Hold on. I got to click this unmute button. It's not letting me. There we go. Unmute. Did it unmute you? Let's see. No. Oh, that's why. I see. There we go.
All right, I'm unmuted.
Yeah. And then I'll unmute all of you for questions.
Awesome.
Hey,
Hi, everybody. Hope you're having a great Sunday. Yeah, ironically, I'm working, you know, Andrea and I are launching this course, and we were just working on our kind of presentation, and it's a lot of things that you're saying, you know, it's like, yeah, you know, don't rush. I mean, buying land or starting a project is like choosing a wife or a husband. You know, it's like something that you really want to think about, really digest, and really feel. Especially like when choosing land. Everybody turn on your video. What's all these names? You know, you really want to get clear on your criteria. You know, what is it that you're seeking, and the clearer you are with your criteria, the better shot you have of finding what you seek. You know, it's like really hone in. Like if you're looking for a husband, like how tall do you want him to be? How fat do you want him to be? What kind of, does he want him to live in the suburbs, in the city? Do you want him to live in the country? Do you want him to be a lawyer? Like the clearer you are in life, you know, and then with land, like when we, I'm in Ecovillages right now. I'm going to maybe show you where I am. This is a community with 45 families from 22 countries, and can't really even see the other houses, but this is where I am. It's mostly food forest. So when we chose this land, we had very clear criteria, and the criteria was I had already lived for 15 years. I've been 25 years in Costa Rica, but at that point I had been here for 15 years, and I really knew the country. So when creating criteria, I was really clear on what I was seeking. And so for this place, I knew that I wanted to be closer to San Jose. You know, I moved here 25 years ago and started a education center on the Caribbean side near the Panama border. And it's epic. I mean, there's no road to get there. You got to take a boat. It's just, we have, 90 acres of beach. There's, we have no neighbors. It's absolutely incredible. And, but it's far. It's a 4-hour drive, and then a 25-minute boat ride, and sometimes a longer drive because the road has stuff going on. And that's called Punta Mona, just for Leticia. Punta Mona is our farm on the Caribbean side, and it's a retreat center, really focused on permaculture and more on the physical kind of herbal studies. Now we're starting to do more kind of a little bit of every. We've been doing yoga teacher trainings for years, but mostly because of the bread and butter of it. But what we really like to teach is design and ecological design and permaculture. And then 10 years ago, we set out and started this property, which is La Ecovilla. So there's Punta Mona, where I am now is La Ecovilla, which we started 10 years ago. And, 15 years ago, 2006. Yeah, 14 years ago. And now this is where there's 45 families. And then we just bought 170 acres next door, literally right next door, where we have 130 more lots. And it's like you constantly want to learn as you go. So like, what did 10, 15 years of doing La Ecovilla, what did we learn, and how can we do better now at Alegria? And I'd say so anyway, back to the criteria, and then I'll get to the lessons that we learned with Ecovilla. The criteria is we wanted to be closer to San Jose, less than an hour. We wanted to be between 400 and 700 meters above sea level because I like the climate for. Hey Ed, will you end the thing so I can just get all the people easy on my screen?
Oh yeah, the screen share, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, end the screen share. So then it makes it so we could everybody can go on grid.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. All right, now we're talking. Makes it all easier. Then the chat's on the right side, and cool.
Sweet.
So we wanted to be between 400 and 700 meters above sea level because of the climate, but also because of the opportunity for agriculture. The town next to us, Atenas, National Geographic calls it the very best climate on Earth, and we're just one town over, and it's really, really nice climate. I wanted to be able to lay on big hot boulders in the sun and then roll into crystal clear pools and drink the water if I wanted. And again, it's your criteria, it's your dream. You could do whatever you want. You could. And then one of the important criteria is we wanted land that was radically deforested and hurting. And in this case, I really like cattle pasture. So we bought an abandoned cattle pasture that had some fruit trees, and that was part of the criteria. And when creating criteria, you can put little stars next to the non-negotiables. Like, being within an hour of San Jose, that was a non-negotiable. Being within 400 and 700 meters, I mean, my house right now is at 380 meters. So I was a little flexible on that. The Crystal Clear River, I was not flexible. And right here, 5-minute walk is literally a pool crystal clear river that I could dive into and drink water. And it's incredible. And it's interesting, the way I found the property, I was so clear on my criteria. And one day I was sitting at a friend's house and I just there was a newspaper on his mom's. We were at his mom's house and there was a newspaper sitting on the table. And there was an article, the 10 cleanest rivers in Costa Rica. And 2 of them were right in this area. One of them is the river that we're on. It's called the Machuca River. And so, yeah, I mean, we had very clear vision of what we wanted to do here. And the goal was to really support families. I was 30 something at the time, thinking about kids. And so we designated one of the most beautiful spots on the land to build a school. And that's another interesting thing that we did. The best parts of the land here, we reserved as communal, where your typical developer will come in and all the best spots, they'll make it like prime real, that they'll sell for the premium prices, where we didn't do that. We wanted the best pieces on the land to be communal. So the first thing we did here is we just planted trees, fruit trees, incredible amounts. I'm an ethnobotanist. I'm obsessed. So Punta Mona now has one of the largest collections of useful plants on Earth. I've been all over the world collecting cool fruits and interesting plants. My brother Andrew Seeley's over there probably doctoring up egg fruits that we picked here together.
What did we? Oh yeah, look at that.
He was here yesterday. He's like, I'm coming to get egg fruits. In the rain, we were up there picking.
Canistel,
yeah. And so that was the first thing we did. And so this property we broke into 42 lots, and we decided we didn't want to build people's homes. So everybody kind of built their own home. They designed their own home. We wanted to do things as ecological as possible. And so the roads are made from recycled plastic. Like Ed mentioned, we have a methane digester for the septic. We reserved a huge communal plot for agriculture, and now every Saturday, you should see my fridge, the amount of greens that we get, like ridiculous amounts of greens. And every Saturday, there's crates of fruits and stuff that are picked for us. And like a lot of the food we eat comes from right here. And that's part of our HOA fee is we get food every week, which is totally incredible. And I think one of the really interesting things about here is, you know, a lot of people, like when you go to intentional communities, they want to know, like, how do you filter people? Like, how do you decide who can live there and who can't live there? And, you know, we didn't really have to do that. Like where Ed's place is in Miramar, we're in an area it's not like the hip town. It's not like the town with the cool beach or like the suburb of San Jose where all the cool people live. We're in the middle of nowhere. We chose this place because it has amazing water and a great place to grow food. And that hasn't become the trend yet. I mean, it will be, and people are waking up to that, but I think we were ahead of our time on that. And, you know, we don't need air conditioning, which is so nice. You know, it's like we were just on the beach last week, and it was like the minute we got into the place, we like turned on the air conditioning because it was freaking hot. No, I don't really want to live that way. I don't want to live in a place where I need air conditioning. I want to go to those places, but I don't want to live there personally. So that was part of like kind of the vision. And so the people that the place attracted, just because of it's an eco community, you know, in the middle of nowhere, the people that chose to buy here and live here were people that were dedicated to these similar values. And so some of the things that we've learned from Ecovia is like very little, you know, like very little things that we've changed. But one thing was our communal building and our yoga space and our swimming pool were all too clustered. And part of the thing this was a lot smaller project. So it's like people are doing yoga and there's kids in the pool and there's people in the communal building. So in Alegria, we spread it out a lot more. The yoga is way separated from the communal building. We also really didn't have enough. I feel like we didn't have enough communal space for agriculture. So we did that here at Alegria. And then the other thing is we focused so much on the children, and everybody had children, but what about our 75-year-old parents? What are we going to do about that? And the reality is, it's like if you're on your own and you have to figure out what to do with your, you know, father with dementia or with your, you know, your aging parents, it's like, what do? You just put them in an old age home because it's so overwhelming on your own. But all of a sudden you're 100 families and everybody has elders. Together we can be really creative, and together we can communally create things that are beyond our wildest dreams. Like you can make a criteria and a list of like, what would be the dream of elders? What would they want their reality to be like? And now we're creating that. So that's a really exciting reality. I feel like Ecovia was too small. Like 45 families wasn't enough. There wasn't enough critical mass. Like there wasn't enough 12-year-olds. There wasn't enough people into rugged mountain biking. There was, you know, so now all of a sudden, and there wasn't enough space for a restaurant. And it wasn't enough families for like a restaurant and a food store. And so now in the new community, now we have enough critical mass and we're creating kind of like an urban zone with all of that. And there's also a third community next door that I also co-founded called Taco Tal. So now the three communities are all next to each other. And I think an interesting model is in northern Italy, outside of Torino, is a place called Damanhur. And Damanhur is cool because it's a federation of communities. They all followed the same guru, but each of the different, and here the guru is like nature, and we all follow it. And the different properties, they all have their own kind of themes. Like there was one that was like more agriculture driven. Another was like more kind of artistic and artist. You know, and then they had so they had these 8 or 9 different communities that were in a federation of communities. And then they bought an old factory, actually the old Eddie, like the old typewriter factory. And they turned it into like an urban center, which had like, you know, co-working spaces and some real office spaces from like eco companies. And it had an epic health food store, organic food store. It had like a restaurant, organic restaurant. It had like a organic gelato bar, and it had all these different kind of places. And then people went there and hung out, you know, so it kept that like urbanness. You know, the thing is a lot of people move to communities, but they've left LA or they've left New York or they left Berlin, and they move into a community and it's like freaking beautiful the first year, but then they're like, damn, this is so boring. So, and I think that's been a lot of throughout, when we historically look at communities, you'll find that that's one of the biggest problems is how do we keep the kids around? You know, you go to like the kibbutzes in Israel, or even to like Findhorn in Scotland, or even Damanhur, and you kind of see a lot of old people around, but you're not really seeing the young people excited about it. And hey, you're backlit, Ed. I need to see you better, brother.
I'll get the lights going here. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, I need to see you. I
quick.
need to see you. So I need that inspiration, the handsome Ed Zadelman. Um, they and everybody turn on your videos. What's everybody doing with their videos closed? We're a lot stricter in our presentations, Ed. We like to see everybody. Yay, yay, all right. You're beautiful, all of you. Yes. So we, what was I saying?
Federation and the kids, keeping the kids around.
Oh, keeping the kids around. So how do we keep the kids around? Like, how do we keep our communities hip so that the kids don't want to run off to the city? Like, you think about the kibbutzes in Israel, all the kids just want to run off to Tel Aviv and go to the trance parties, or, you know, they want to go and be a web designer in Tel Aviv rather than live on their kibbutz and grow mangoes. So we got to come up with innovative ways. So one of the things we're doing here is we're looking at some of the neighboring properties, and we're creating like this eco conference center where we could do. I used to organize I still organize, but not this year, a big festival here in Costa Rica called Envision Festival. Last year we had 10,000 people, and you know, so now the vision is like, how can we constantly create that vibe? Like, people go to Envision, and the whole time they're there, they're like, man, can't we live like this all the time? Like, can it be like this all the time? And it's like, yeah, it actually could be. And as a matter of fact, at Punta Mona, it is like that. It is like that feeling all the time, where there's like everything's sacred. Every meal, every interaction, every yoga class, every day is sacred because we're like living on purpose. And so we're looking at a neighboring property now right here where we want to create a conference center where we can host 1,000 people 5 days a month, 8 months a year. And what is that going to do? First of all, it's going to create tons of jobs. And it's funny, people are like, wow, 1,000 people. At this point, after hosting 10,000 people, 1,000 people feels like I can almost do it in my sleep. I know it might sound so crazy and cocky, but like, Envision has been so hard. It was so hard. And now 10 years into it, I feel so trained that, like, you know, at Punta Mona, people get all nervous. Like, my dad will freak out. I think about like my mom when we have like Jewish holidays and she's having 30 people over for dinner, and she gets like all crazy all week. She's running around and getting organized. And like, there's 50 people at Punta Mona right now, and they probably didn't know what they were making for lunch until 10:30. And it's just like you get used to that kind of pressure and that reality. And so yeah, I could see doing creating this event space. And kind of part of the broader vision of what we're doing here so we have Ecovia, Alegria, and Taco Tall. We want to create the event space. Is this broader vision that I've been calling 1001, redesigning the world 1,001 hectares at a time. And it's kind of rooted. I was driving in Miami recently. Well, not that recently, I guess like a year ago. And I was listening to Sirius Radio, and there was like this show, this like TED radio show, and they were talking to this guy about climate change, and he was saying, like, what is climate change? You know, it's like, who is the leader of this, fight against climate change, and what can we actually do about it? And does it matter, like, if we bring our cloth bags to the grocery stores, are we really going to help the polar bears? And it's like, I don't know, maybe not, and it got me really thinking, like, I'm doing all these projects, but how can we do things that are going to have like real impact? It's like Punta Mona is great, and 45 families here is great, but like we got to create a replicable model that like rolls it all up. Like, how can we roll all of this up? And so 1001, the vision is we'll have a series of communities, like neighborhoods, which here we already have 3. And then we need, so just to kind of go through the percentages, kind of like the model that I'm thinking is, since we're always looking for deforested land, there's usually like between 5 and 10% existing forest. Okay. And then we want to take the next 30 to 40% and we want to reforest it. That's 300 to 400 hectares. That's 1,000 to 1,200 acres of reforestation. Not many people are doing that with native species. Okay, and then meanwhile, as you're reforesting, you're farming the understories with vanilla and black pepper and passion fruit and sacha inchi and all the different things that you can grow, cacao, all the things in the in-betweens of the natives, creating forests. And then on the next 10 or 15%, you're growing wood and bamboo. And that's so your children and your grandchildren have materials to build from.
Awesome.
And then on the next 30 to 40%, you're doing massive food forest. And food forest is this concept in permaculture. It's food focused on perennial plantings, perennial as opposed to annuals. Food that comes from trees, that comes from permanent plantings. So you're not constantly tilling. Bill Mollison, the founder of permaculture, used to say, how can we design our realities to maximize hammock time? And then my dear neighbor Patty in Punta Mona, may he rest in peace, he used to say, boy, if you plan things right, all you do is reap. If you plan things right, all you do is reap. And I think that's like on a macro for all of us. Like if we get organized and we've set things up in the right way, all we do is harvest. You know, like at Punta Mona, we used to have so much energy, people chopping and clearing. And now almost all of our labor is harvesting all the time and processing because we planned it right. Whether we're harvesting bamboo, whether we're milling trees, whether we're harvesting and making jams or jackfruit jerky or whatever we're doing, there's so much reaping happening. So 30 to 40% on food forest. And then we have state-of-the-art, massive food processing facilities. And then we have communities that could house, you know, anywhere over 1,001 families. And then we have the education and we have the schooling that we're already doing. Our school here that we started has 50 children already, and it's about to radically expand with Alegria. And then we will merge the festival conference center right into it. How many of you have been to a lot of like really cool eco conferences, whether it's Pioneers or the Green Festivals or all those really cool, you know, eco chic conferences that are happening? But where are they happening? At the Marriott, at the Westin? Like, come on, can't we step it up? Like, there's no real eco conference centers. Like, I know, like, I mean, I guess like one cool example was like Summit went to Tulum, but there we are spread over like 10 different or 12 different hotels, or, you know, there's not really a place like, you know, where we can really house an eco conference of 800 people. And so that's the goal with the neighboring farm that we're working on right now. Trying to think of some other things, you know, sacred spaces in Alegria. In Ecovia, we didn't really do that. We really feel like incorporating right into our realities is just like setting up the sacred spaces. And then the last but not least that I would want to mention that I experienced at Tamera in Portugal, which I was so inspired by, was the polyamory. No, I'm just kidding. That one thing at Tamera is the polyamory, but that's not what I was intrigued by. The thing that I was intrigued by at Tamera, that was funny, I wasn't planning that, was I'm cracking myself up, was at Tamera, they're real activists as communities. Like, you know, it's like if you're an activist as an individual and you want to, like, you live in a town that you want to eradicate plastic, or you want to, you know, clean a watershed, and you're starting on your own, it's like so hard to do anything. But Tamera was already 150, 200 people. And we were like another 150 people that were there for the retreat. And then we mobilized everybody that was there. And I just saw they posted on Facebook 2 days ago that what we did there 2 years ago just won. Portugal was doing like some offshore oil drilling. And we did this action where we all went to the beach and we spelled out on the beach, I forget what it was in Portuguese, but like, no to the oil drilling. And this whole like dolphin and this whole thing with 1,000 people on the beach. And there was like drone footage, and they made this whole video and it went viral and it was on all the news stations. And I just feel like, how can we really do things and get active as a community? Like when COVID broke out here, we have this epic garden in Alegria. Like check out our Instagram and our website. The garden is like next level. You feel like you're like in a dream. And we had so much food pumping, and we didn't have any more guests. So we had this whole garden set up for these farm to table dinners that we were doing. And all of a sudden we had all this food and we had no guests. So we did my partner Kara did a online summit with all the neighbors that had just invested. And And we did this like online summit thing, and we raised like $1,800. Next thing I knew, every Wednesday we were collecting all the food from our garden, and with the $1,800 we were buying like oil and rice and beans and stuff that we weren't growing. And we started this whole like route in San Mateo where we were helping all these families. And the interesting thing is that we were giving them kale. And when we first gave it to them, like, we don't eat kale. But then we gave them recipes. And now they're all like, we're helping them, and they're all starting gardens in their yards where they're growing kale. So I think collectively we're so powerful. I would say, kind of in conclusion, one of the most amazing things in my reality right now, and I'm just going to go right now live, hot off the press, just see what's there right this second, is all the WhatsApp groups that I'm in. When you live in community, I never need to go anywhere. I don't need to leave my house. Why? Because there's the cashew man that comes. There's the coconut water man that comes. There's the fish guy right from the port that comes here. There's the organic veggies that we can't grow. There's the massage therapist group. There's the conspiracy group, which I'm not in. Oh yeah, I don't subscribe to that. But like, if I go into, it's called, and then the main group, which started as the ride share, is called Buen Ride. And for example, I open it up, and they're doing a big Tuesday ecstatic dance. I think with the DJ from where you are, Santa Teresa, some Swiss DJ. You know what I'm talking about, Ed?
Yeah. Could be.
Yeah, I think she's doing ecstatic dance. So there's a bunch of people talking about that. Does anyone have a home that you'd like to rent to my friend and her family starting early October for 4 to 6 months? These are just the conversation. Like, has anybody seen my son Noah? Anybody interested? My kids are selling, they're making kombucha. There's all the kids have micro industries through the Buen Ride. And It's really a dream. Like, it's really like, it makes me realize, wow, it's like, if you build it, they will come. What we're doing at Alegria, we're not setting everything up. Like, people will call, and the other thing is we already have Alegria. We already have the Alegria Village Neighbors group, which is right there. What's going on there today? Been preparing and packing for a while now to leave Montreal for Alegria. Now all the people are ready, and now there's an Alegria, which we haven't even built the first thing except the yoga deck in the garden. There's already the kids of Alegria in WhatsApp group. They're already having Zoom calls, the kids of Alegria. They haven't even moved here yet. So I think setting up and it's not like we do all the work. It was one of the buyers had the idea. It was our idea to set up the first WhatsApp group. And it's just magic what's happening. It's like, we just lay out the canvas, and then people are like, oh, are you guys going to have a sound? Are we going to have like a sound recording studio? Because whatever we want, we can have. This is our community. We're just kind of laying the canvas. So I think that's, how's that, Ed?
That was great. And I love that you also talked about some of these soft and invisible structures, simple as the WhatsApp group, but so powerful.
It's amazing.
I was at Carla's house last week, and we had fresh goat cheese and all these things were delivered. I'm like, I can't get this stuff in the capital, Mom. It was gourmet.
The coconut yogurt people are delivering there now.
That's wild.
And it's cheaper than if you buy it at the store. I'm really into the coconut yogurt, but it's really expensive. It's like 4,000 colones, which is like $8 or $7.50 for like a small thing of coconut yogurt. I buy it sometimes. It's like a real splurge. But now we all buy it like in bulk, and it's like, half the price because we're buying so much at once. And literally, we can pretty much get anything delivered here because we're a big enough community that it's worth it for anyone to come here. And we're in the middle of nowhere.
And I love the point you said about the Meet a We. I think it's a great book too, but David mentioned it in the chat. I remember when you started Ecovilla, it was all like, people came to you with every complaint under the sun, everything. And then I realized at one point, when people bought all the different plots of land, you became just one of them. It's not you're leading a community. You're a homeowner in an association. You're a group. What do we want? We want money to the school, to the gardens. Some of them are tough decisions, and it doesn't have to be on the person starting the community always. It has to be on the communal group to create what they want.
But what I would say, Ed, is you don't want to leave too much to communal groups. Communal groups can be really, really, really taxing. So we set almost everything up. There's not that much, we had a lot of thought and a lot of intention and a lot of it set up. So when people buy in, they're buying into a whole thing that's already set up. Yeah. I mean, right at Ecovilla, like at Tamara, which is like the opposite, they're processing constantly. I mean, they're polyamorous. So they're like constantly processing every 2 or 3 days a week, they have these councils and it's really processy. We're here in Ecovilla. When I tell people from there that we meet once a year in our HOA meeting, I mean, we have dinners and we have a lot of meetings, but we don't have like logistical meetings. We have sometimes admin meetings and some of the committees meet, but we don't all meet and sit around and decide things because most of the things have been decided. The infrastructure has been laid. The only kind of tweaks that happen is like you have your HOA fees and there's like wiggle room to how it gets spent. But it hasn't changed much in the probably, 10 years since the 9 years since the HOA really got going.
And I think David wrote, what are those key items to set up to limit issues? Is there any like highlights from pet? I went to one of the meetings of the Ecovilla early HOA meeting and, questions come up, fences, pets. What are some of the biggest issues that you think if someone's designing the rules or HOAs?
I'd say right now especially with COVID, it's about visitors like the HOA and the Airbnb and the minimum amount of time. I'd say that one. We've been having a little things about ayahuasca and whether or not people can be hosting it here.
Right.
The pets thing is definitely real.
What is the pet, by the way? Like it's to keep people's pets inside, or how many pets do you
Well,
have?
some people don't like, some people are like, hard biologists that don't want cats eating birds and don't want them killing lizards. And some people are obsessed with their dogs and cats. Some people hate barking. I do. I hate hearing dogs bark.
Yep.
But some people are dog freaks. So it's like, you just have to find the balance and create I think one of the key things you can do is it's this whole reality of like, what if then, what if then, like as many what if thens that you can come up with, the better off you are. Are you good with sharing that list and learning with this community? With which list, David?
Oh, he was saying like the HOA list and or like lists of the issues, maybe not a full because HOAs are documents, but we could maybe send some people in an email, like some of the key points. Yeah. Totally. We could do a little follow-up. And yeah, by the way, people who are building communities and centers, forming these kind of alliances and groups, the Federation of Communities was so beautiful that you said, Stephen, we can share these kind of things amongst each other. And I'll give you guys a link after for a group we're creating that Stephen will be a part of, but where we could talk about all this. David wrote, we can't all foresee all the what if thens already since you have experience. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. What'd you do? Oh, no, it's still not working.
And by the way, one thing also I noticed, Stephen, is there's some people who, like, you can't nail it with everybody, and some people will move out. If it's not the right community, move out. Like, Ecovilla really equalized after a while, where certain people moved in, others out. So
it happens at Punta Mona. You really, you got it, thanks. You really realize it at Punta Mona, it just spits people out. And Ecovilla spit people out, like just certain reason. Some people move to a place. I want to share one thing that my sweetie, do you want to share it, babe? My sweetie had such a deep vision the other day, and I want to share it. So here we are in Costa Rica. Ecovilla is about 20% Costa Ricans, which is actually better than a lot of like gated community kind of places here. And how can we do better? And so she had this vision about creating like a fee that every lot pays into a fee that supports local people to be able to buy into the community. And I think that's so brilliant because right now we're figuring it out. Like we're struggling to try to find more affordable lots so that Costa Ricans could afford to live there. And it's really a struggle. It's like the Americans, I was on a TV show recently on Netflix. Oh, by the way, David, it was called Down to Earth with Zac Efron.
Yeah.
I was in episode 3 and I was his host here in Costa Rica. And that show came out and also the whole thing with that guy whose name rhymes with dump and all the things that are going on in the States and COVID, and literally Americans are just like throwing money at us sight unseen. Like, they like see a little video of the lot and like literally send their money down. And where the Costa Ricans, it's taking longer, and meanwhile, all the Americans are snapping up all the cheaper lots, and it's been a real struggle. And now my partner Karen and I are really, and then we have the fiduciary responsibility to our investors, and it's like, it's been a very interesting dance. So Andrea's vision of, putting it into the model to assure that balance and assure that equity, that equality, so that Costa Ricans could afford, or wherever you're doing so people that are from there could also live there. I think trying to figure that and working that into your model is really critical.
I love that, the fee model. That's very smart.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, for those who didn't type questions into the chat, I now made it so you could unmute yourself if you prefer to ask a question, but you could also just throw it into the chat.
Mila,
Yeah.
qué linda. You look so beautiful. You
Living.
haven't aged a minute.
Aw. Wait, how do I unmute mom? Well, I'll unmute her. I can learn how to do this. Anyone have any questions, by the way? Feel free. Unmute yourself if you want. Type a question. Oh, my mom's waiting. I'll unmute you, mom. Hold on. Unmute button. Did it work?
Is there a model on the internet for the 1001 hectares? Is there any information or?
Not really a model. There's an Instagram live that I did. My first Instagram live was just kind of like a download, like the day I really kind of downloaded it. I'm getting there. It's like right now we're just like so in the thick of it with Alegria and Ecoversity. So I also started this thing called Ecoversity during COVID. David was asking me like, how's COVID been for you? And like, we started this Ecoversity. I've been teaching permaculture for nearly 20 years, and I never wanted to do it online. Like, I was like, no. You want to take permaculture? You come to Punta Mono. And right as COVID was starting, we had our first 2 semesters getting ready to come. It's called Ecoversity Semester for Change, and we had 2 planned for this summer. And obviously with COVID, they got canceled, so we switched it online. And right now we have 200 people from 27 countries in our permaculture course, and it's freaking mind-blowing how awesome it is. I never would have thought it. I never would have imagined it.
I remember how you spoke about that, and now because of what some people see as a challenge, it became a huge reality.
I know. Opportunity. So no, there's not anything online, but we're getting there. Those kind of 2 things. I had a call today with this like super investor, like serious investor who I talked to like 2 months about it. And he's like, man, I have my whole crew ready to jump on 1001. Now, the thing is 1,000, is the difference between 1001 as an investment hub that then puts the money into the different things, or is the retreat conference center one investment, and the agricultural processing plant and the 300 hectares of agriculture another investment? And is the reforestation like done through a nonprofit? And, that's kind of like some of the details that we're still figuring out. We're moving on the conference retreat center next door that we're probably going to make it a separate entity, but it's all under the umbrella of 1001.
Awesome.
Letitia, I think it is in that video. If you go on my Instagram, I'll put my Instagram in here, and you could see it in there. I think I also could write it really fast. It's not, and I think Ed's also recording here.
Yeah, definitely recording.
Yeah, I was just curious because I'm like kind of a part of a project called Ascendia and Harmonizing Humanity, and we just had like an online summit following World Unity Week, and then now we're having the Up Convergence. But just interested to see the model that they're building, kind of like this, the new Earth center of the world. Like everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people are building now. So I'm interested to know how it can like model or mirror or like integrate the model that you've been speaking about.
Yeah, I mean, my vision is that we do it, and then we just help existing projects all around the world also do it. Based on the success. Like I'm finding right now with the success of here, it's like so much easier to find investors. It's like so much easier to, like go see. It's like Andrea. We were talking about this friend of ours, and he hasn't really had many successes at all. And our friends invested in. They're like, yeah, well, didn't they like check him out first? And it feels like, people can come here and see kind of what's already happening here. And it's like, yes, it's happening.
Right.
And the thing is, it's all about real copylefted. Everything's copylefted. Everything's like, what's the internet term of that? Share.
Share.
What is it?
Commons, I think, or something like that.
No. forget. John Perry Barlow was the guy that kind of wrote it. It's like when everything is like you have a program and everybody can work on it. It's free, but everybody makes it better. I forget the name. What is it?
Open source.
Open source. Open source. And this all just needs to be open source. Like, you know, it's like as the competition dissolves, you know, it's like, and the cooperation evolves. I think it's the only way. Yeah, we teach permaculture courses at Punta Mona, but we're not sure when the next one is going to be. Although we have retreat this weekend, next weekend, and the weekend after, so things are starting to
Pick up.
open back up. It seems like we'll probably come up with a date soon. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Fun.
By the way, go for it, Andrew.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, Stephen, so for the community that will also be in conjunction with the kind of like, I guess, education center, like what you're planning on doing with these conferences, is that going to be exclusively for conferences, or is that going to also be an open community space where people can also have the opportunity to?
Oh yeah. It's a festival space, so it could have 10 different retreats at the same time. It could host 1,000 people. So Imagine Envision has all the different stages and all the different workshop areas and all of that. It's going to be like that. I mean, we built Envision over several years, but you know, I've been part of festivals. Like I was just part of the Eclipse gathering in Argentina, which unfortunately is getting canceled, but I showed up there in March of last year, and it was just a raw piece of land. And I went back 2 more times and I watched the festival being built, and it's not like exorbitantly expensive, you know. It's like,
yeah, but all that infrastructure could be reused. And
yeah, no, it gets, if you're doing it permanent and you own the site, it's just such a whole other world. You know, it's like most festivals, they build it and then take it down, you know. Envision has had the blessing that we had a 10-year lease, so we've kind of just been, you know, improving it over time.
So essentially, like this would be like almost like a festival ground that is actually a structure that stays there and continues to grow. Artists come in and then it continues to grow. Oh, that's awesome. Great idea.
Yeah.
Love that
1,000
concept.
people. 1,000 people a month, 5 days.
Woo, let's go.
Yeah. And it's the location is so ideal because it's 45 minutes from San Jose, but it's like in the rainforest with beautiful creeks and rivers, and it's pretty epic.
I'll be coming to host a festival.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you say I challenge you.
I dare you.
I dare you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Lovely.
Hi everyone. My name's Martin. I'm living in Santa Teresa in Costa Rica.
Cool.
I have a question for, yeah, it's great here.
I just
And-
at the ecstatic dance. Were you there?
Yeah, I was there on Friday, and I was there on Friday night and one Friday night before. Yeah.
Great.
And so yeah, my question was to Edward and to Stephen is, because Ed was saying it was really hard to to build. It was quite expensive. It wasn't easy to get investors. So there's a lot of talk about like making aircrete buildings really cheap. Is there a lot of benefits to doing that, to make a home for people to come? What's your viewpoints about building structures to do it in a cost-effective way?
Yeah, I like aircrete. I've never built with it. I'm not such a concrete guy. But at Brave Earth in La Fortuna in San Carlos, our friends built a whole village of aircrete. They're super stoked on it. The buildings are beautiful. I forget the percentage. I think it uses like, I don't know, 30% of the amount of cement that it would take to build a building like that normally, or even less. Basically, they're just infusing like air into the cement mixture, which makes it almost like foam, but then it hardens like cement. So it just puts lots of air in between the cement. I like it. I've never done it, but I like it. I don't have that much, I can't really say too much about it because I haven't done it. I'm more of like so my house, all of this is wattle and daub, which is clay and with structure. So it's just like strips of bamboo that are weaved together with like clay kind of just like balled into it and then like finishing over it. And my house is like 10 degrees cooler than everyone else's house here. Hey, Sue.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, Sue.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really into wattle and daub. I'm really into fallen trees. Like I go to an area, and this isn't probably, it won't work like long term for everyone, but I go into an area and I find all the big properties and I contact the landowners and I buy all their fallen trees. So I'm really into wood. I'm really into buying fallen
Big
trees.
trip, by the way. Fallen tree.
All kinds of people around here know me. When a tree falls, they call me. Like I'm into that. All my buildings in Punta Mona, it's all from fallen trees milled in the forest. Here we use big chainsaws with what they call Alaskan mill that you click onto your chainsaw. So right in the middle of the jungle, you can make like beautiful boards and stuff.
Yeah, when a tree falls in the woods, Stephen hears it.
I hear it. Yeah, people call me.
Yeah, Martin, like with the tiny homes that we're doing now with our buddy Jack, they're ending up like the smaller ones. They're about 20 square meters, 200 plus square feet, and they're coming in at like 15K. And those are steel frame and local woods. But some people are asking to use wattle and daub or bareke. So we're doing custom builds that are still ending up in that same price point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's helpful. I mean, I think the whole idea of tiny homes, I mean, how do you get more sustainable? Maybe just get smaller homes. I mean, when I built this home before I had that hit, I built a big home, but now I can't wait to rent this and build a much smaller one.
We're in like a 40 square meter house now, like 400 square feet. It's pretty small. Sue, are you happy here?
I am extremely happy. We don't really need much.
Yeah, we do have a pool and a yoga deck and
Yeah,
a nice kitchen.
and a sauna.
And a sauna.
Well, that's the key. That's the cool thing about communities. You have a lot of communal areas and community space, so you don't need such big homes.
By the way, one thing I do find interesting is we're starting to see groups of people, instead of just buying land and building a house, pairing together, like 4 or 5 people pairing together to create a pod. So we're helping them do that in existing communities and in existing land projects like this one that we're on now, where people can come together, build a few tiny homes or any kind of homes, and yeah, enjoy them.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys. I kind of need to hop off, but what a blessing.
Thank you, thank you.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Follow your dreams. David, sweet to see you.
Go visit Playa Viva, people. David's built a beautiful place.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. Great to meet you.
I just want to know what Andrew's making for dinner. And
Oh God, they came to my house yesterday.
Such good.
They came to my house yesterday and they made air fried breadfruit fries.
Wow.
And it was with guacamole, with mango guacamole. It was unbelievable.
So today we're making French toast with breadfruit.
Ooh,
wow. I
wow.
love that. And I love that you make French toast at 4 p.m. Costa Rica time. That
Oh
is
no, are you kidding me? This is like the waffle pancake French toast king and queen right there.
Sunday.
Every time.
It's all about comfort food today.
Ed and Andrew, I think you guys should do like a cooking one next time. Okay.
Oh,
Just,
yeah.
Wow,
And
yes.
with Michaela, the vegan fairy goodness.
Vegan fairy bites.
Fair. Retreat center fair. What to eat at your retreat center.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm
That's great.
totally down to make more magic. And thank you so much, Ed, for creating this. And I think this should be like a reoccurring model where we all have the opportunity to come together, talk about the projects that we're working on, and really be able to share these ideas, because open source is the most sustainable way for us to really connect as a community and uplift each other and really find the value in communicating together. Because I think that that's really what we're lacking right now, is a space where we can come together and find that communal gatherings point where we can really have these conversations. And so thank you so much for creating this space.
Yeah, and
Yay!
everybody like this. Everybody goes like this,
Yeah, let's do it.
and then give it out. We've been doing these webinars with All Agree, and they all end that way, and it's like,
Look at my
Aw.
love y'all. Nice seeing you.
great to see you.
Yay, thanks.
By the way,
Thank
guys,
you, Ed.
we're going to launch a regenerative future
my
Alliance,
profile.
for what Andrew was saying.
Oh, sorry.
A place for us to all get together and share resources about once a month. And we'll be doing more of these workshops. But the Alliance will be a fun way for us to literally open source, share, connect. I love connecting people offline who aren't at these things to projects who need them. So let's do it, people. So grateful for y'all.
So awesome.